On this week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker, softball finally gets a taste of home field, and RSL reporter Nolan Hawley puts MLB announcers on notice in this week's rant.
Also, men's volleyball gets back to their winning ways, and RSL reporter Tim Edmonds gives us a Final Four preview.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker. I'm Andy McDonald.
And I'm Connor Bergen. The men's volleyball team has been playing well of late, winning 4 straight matches to break a 4-match losing streak. On Thursday, March 28th, the team squared off against McKendree University at Gentile Arena. Senior Paul Narup was the star, scoring a perfect 10 for 10 on the attack to lead the Ramblers to a 3-0 sweep of the Bearcats. The next night, on Friday, March 29th, Loyola played host to rival, the Ohio State University at Gentile Arena again. And just as they did earlier in the season in Columbus, the Ramblers swept the Buckeyes in 3 straight sets. The win marks the first time that Loyola has swept the season series with Ohio State since 2015. With just 2 matches left on the schedule, Loyola sits in second place in the MIVA standings with a record of 10-2. Lewis University, who beat Loyola twice earlier in the year, is in first with a record of 11-1. Loyola's final 2 matches of the year will take place this Friday and Saturday, both at Gentile Arena. On Friday, the Ramblers will face the Lindenwood Lions, and on Saturday, they'll take on the Quincy Hawks. Both matches begin at 7 p.m.
We went into the RSL archives and found a player profile on Garrett Zolg from last year.
RSL reporter Haley Spittler has more on the men's volleyball sophomore setter in this never-before-seen footage.
Freshman setter Garrett Zolg has been playing volleyball since the 8th grade. However, before he was setting balls to go over a net, he was actually kicking them into one.
I was a big club soccer player. I played from kindergarten to 8th grade, and then I kind of just lost the passion to play. I kind of just wasn't having fun anymore and wanted to try something new, and fell in love with volleyball.
There's more than just love that goes into Zolg's volleyball game. There's also a lot of skill. In his first season playing for Loyola, he had 1,094 sets and 214 digs. His success did not go unnoticed as he was named MIVA Freshman of the Year back on April 11th. While the award meant a lot to him, he said it wasn't an individual honor.
It's definitely cool to get recognition, but I couldn't do it without my teammates. The success we had as a team, and then the guys constantly supported me. So those guys really deserve me getting this award.
Zolg mentioned that one player in particular that helped him out and took him under his wing at Loyola was senior middle blocker Jeff Jendrick. Jendrick was not only proud of Zolg for his honor, but also agreed that awards don't distract them from their real goals.
Awards are awesome, but if our team's winning, that's what matters most. Individual awards are cool, but it's what the team does, and that's what actually makes a difference.
Zolg has loved his time so far at Loyola and says he has already grown a lot as a player in just 1 year. While he adjusted quickly to the court, it's been harder for the California native to adjust to the Chicago climate.
This is my first time ever experiencing the winter out here. I've been in the snow before, but nothing extended like this, but it's fun and I love it.
Zolg says he is looking forward to returning home for the summer and spending time with his family in much nicer weather. However, he also is looking forward to next season, where he hopes to make the NCAA tournament. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Haley Spittler.
Zolg is having a solid sophomore campaign this year for the Ramblers. He leads the team with 990 assists and is second on the team in digs with 163.
The Loyola softball team was in action this past week as they played their first homestand of the season. The Ramblers took on Bradley University in their home opener on Sunday, March 31st. Freshman Madison Ebling and junior Shannon McGee and senior Katie Kazuki each recorded 2 base hits, while junior Jessica Shields stole her 30th base of the season. It was all not enough as the Ramblers fell to the Bradley Braves 12-5. Next day in a doubleheader with the Braves, the Ramblers only scored 1 run in Game 1 and lost to the Braves 7-1. In Game 2, the Ramblers scored 4 runs thanks in part to a 2-run home run by Shannon McGee, but the Braves prevailed by putting up 9 runs to complete the series sweep. On Wednesday, April 3rd, the Ramblers traveled to Evanston to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. The Ramblers got on the board first with a sacrifice fly from Allison Ivy that brought Shields home. The Ramblers held the 1-run lead until the 4th inning when Northwestern tied it. It The Wildcats exploded for 4 more runs in the 5th inning and beat the Ramblers 5-1. The Ramblers' overall record is 17-14. They will return to Loyola Softball Park this weekend, April 6th and 7th, to take on MVC rival Indiana State in a 3-game series.
The track and field teams competed in 2 invitationals over the last week, one at the Bobcat Invitational at Texas State University and the other at the Raleigh Relays at North Carolina State University. Redshirt senior Lindsey Brewis made her 2019 outdoor debut at the Raleigh Relays, setting a personal best 33-minute, 56-second time in the 10,000-meter run. The mark is the second fastest time in program history. At the Bobcat Invitational, junior Riley Demelunaire set his own personal best in the 3,000-meter run steeplechase, coming in at 9 minutes flat. The run is good enough for 4th fastest in program history. Track and field coach Bob Thurnhofer lauded his team's effort, calling this the best regular season weekend in women's program history, as well as one of the best overall in program history. The team's next meet will be the Redbird Invitational at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois on Saturday, April 6th.
Major League Baseball celebrated opening day last week, but for one fan, something rained on the festivities.
RSL reporter Nolan Hawley has issues with not the players, but the broadcasters in the booth in this week's rant.
Thanks, guys. Baseball season is upon us, and that means summer vacation is soon to follow, and America's pastime is in full swing. Time for walk-off home runs, take me out to the ball game, and the race to the World Series. Like many college students, I spent opening day watching baseball instead of doing anything even remotely productive. Unfortunately, my experience was ruined by one major flaw: ESPN and MLB Network baseball announcers. These guys are the worst thing to happen to baseball since the designated hitter. I mean, who are these guys? Sure, everyone knows David Ross, Chicago legend and World Series champion, but he spends more time laughing at his jokes than he does actually broadcasting. Besides that, the announcers for these games might as well be named Adam Smith and John Doe. That's how mundane they are. I miss the days of Harry Carey and Vin Scully, absolute units who could handle calling the games by themselves. Nowadays, calling baseball games requires a play-by-play announcer, 2 color commentators, and a rules expert. I mean, who doesn't know the rules of baseball? Throw gas, hit dingers, charge the plate. That's it. Baseball is in serious need of a revival. The MLB Network and ESPN need to bring in announcers who are more like Harry and Vin. They were tanks, men amongst boys. I would love to see it. Until ESPN and MLB Network find announcers who match their expertise and poise, I'll listen to my games muted. That's all from me. Back to you guys.
The men's and women's golf teams were both scheduled to play in the Bradley Spring Invitational last weekend. However, the entire event was canceled due to inclement weather. The men's team will continue its season April 8th and 9th at the Ryman Hospitality Intercollegiate in Nashville, Tennessee. The women's team will play April 7th and 8th at the Indiana State Spring Invitational in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Loyola may not be in the running, but this year's Final Four is still set up to be a good one.
RSL reporter Tim Edmonds has a rundown on the 4 teams going after college basketball's biggest prize.
After last season's Final Four included our Ramblers as its 11th seeded Cinderella, this year's edition of the tournament's final round in Minneapolis, Minnesota is dominated by teams from Power 5 conferences. In this week's breakdown, I'll be previewing these teams and their chances to win it all. Beginning with the Auburn Tigers, the winners of the Midwest region, they find themselves in their first Final Four in program history. Considered by some to be a team of destiny, the Tigers also have the motivation of losing one of their best players on their way to Minneapolis, as star forward Chuma Okeke suffered a torn ACL in the Sweet 16. Known for their length and shooting ability, the Tigers are underdogs, but a serious dark horse to win the national title this weekend in Minnesota. Squaring off against the Tigers are the number 1 seeded Virginia Cavaliers. After the most embarrassing loss in tournament history to 16-seeded UMBC last year, the Cavs have strung together 4 nail-biting victories en route to the Final Four. Known for their smothering defense and tremendous length, head coach Tony Bennett's team has to be the favorites to lift the national championship trophy on Monday, April 8th. To the other matchup taking place, we spotlight the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Built around a strong team defense, the Red Raiders have coasted to the Final Four behind 4 strong defensive performances and a candidate for player of the tournament sophomore guard Jared Culver. Facing off against them will be the Michigan State Spartans. Fresh off upsetting tournament favorites Duke in the Elite Eight, the Spartans are no one-hit wonder. Led by junior guard and Big Ten Player of the Year Cassius Winston, the Spartans are the favorites to beat the Red Raiders and play for the national championship on Monday. In their 8th Final Four since 1999, head coach Tom Izzo's team has the experience and the talent to win their first national title since 2000. Regardless of who you're rooting for, you should be glued to your television set this weekend for another edition of college basketball's biggest stage.
Thanks, Tim. I think Texas Tech will go all the way.
I'd have to disagree. I got my money on Tom Izzo and the Spartans. I think safe bet always go with Tom Izzo. But for our full episodes and the chance to get in on the conversation, follow us on our social media handles for an up-to-date look at all things Rambler Sports.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Andy McDonald.
And I'm Connor Bergen. Check back next week for another episode of the Rambler Sports Locker.
And as always, don't forget to turn out the lights.